Hello, and welcome to lecture number 4 in Teaching Creative Dance. My name is Ella Magruder, and the title of today's lecture is Teaching Dance with Human Development in Mind. Often dance is presented as a series of positions and steps to learn. Or if taught from a choreographic perspective, it's presented as an exploration of body, space, time, and energy force. Or from a standpoint of dancing from inspiration or for expression. In any of these situations, a teacher may wonder why some children fail to catch on to the steps. For instance, why is that child only able to gallop leading with one leg and not the other? Or why is a child unable or unwilling to pay attention to verbal or visual directions or cues in a creative dance class? Additionally, the teacher may wonder why certain lesson plans fail to work for certain ages of children. This brings us to the topic for today: how to understand what is developmentally appropriate for a child to learn according to the age of the child and for the individual. Intuitively, a teacher knows that each child is a unique individual, but they may attribute a lack of dance skill to the child not trying hard enough, and in the case of misbehavior, to a lack of discipline in the home or to some other cause, such as the wrong diet, too much sugar perhaps. But the answer may lie much deeper than that. Learning problems may center around situations with a particular individual's development from birth, in the connection between the mind and body that takes place in the central nervous system. A baby is born with the capacity to sense itself and its surroundings. A baby has a vestibular sense, an awareness of gravity. For instance, a baby will startle if it senses that it might be dropped. The baby is born with a proprioceptive sense. This is a sense of movement in the muscles and then in the joints. The baby's born with a tactile sense, a sense of what it feels like to be touched and held, and what it feels like to touch. That sense helps it to eat and to know where that nourishment is coming from. The baby's also born with the things that we more normally associate with the senses: an auditory sense, a sense of hearing; an olfactory sense, the sense of smell; a visual sense for seeing; and a gustatory sense for taste. Orderly and sequential growth of the capacity of all these senses develops and organizes each individual life. If development and learning occur in a timely way, the baby develops into a fully functioning individual with a capacity to think and move purposefully and efficiently. Intellect and cognition, thinking, will progress. Movement prowess will increase, and the ability of a child to engage in normal childhood activities with behavior that functions in a way to enable the child to adapt to change will take place. When teaching from a developmental perspective, it's important to know what the developmental movement abilities are for each age child. Now, I'm not going to go into each one here. They're readily available from many sources. But I'll give you a few examples. For instance, to make sure that preschoolers have enough time and space around them to change direction when you're telling them to go another way, so that they don't all rush in to the same spot at the same time and, unable to control themselves easily, bump into one another. developmentally appropriate activities in a class for 6-year-olds might include a phrase that is a jump, 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 fall down, because falling is immensely pleasurable to 6-year-olds and informs both their proprioceptive sense and their vestibular sense, so that they're understanding how to both balance and work with gravity, as well as to control the muscles and joints as they descend to the ground quickly. A developmental way of focusing a class for teens would be to allow the teens to collaborate together and work with groups or with a partner to take into the account the developmental need that a teenager has to belong to a group and to feel included. Teachers who do this will find that their classes are much easier to manage and to control, and they will spend much less time correcting behavior. In addition, when students are in an environment that is safe, comfortable, and they are performing developmentally appropriate movements with the expectation that is appropriate for their age group, they're going to do better work in that dance classroom. However, sometimes for various reasons, perhaps illness, birth injury, trauma, development does not progress normally. The individual fails to achieve certain intellectual, cognitive, perception, sensory, and movement milestones. This results in arrested, delayed, or sometimes stopped development of crucial abilities, such as the ability to control eye movement, which is so necessary for reading, or the lack of awareness about two sides of the body and control of two sides of the body, which definitely affects movement in dance, but also affects the ability of the child to draw or to write, which then affects academic work. How can the dance teacher address this issue? And how does dance help? Well, the answer is, in many ways, research has shown over and over, dance addresses developmental needs. The question is, how should a lesson plan inform and reflect understanding of human development? Anne Green Gilbert, an alum of Sweetbriar College, has developed a series of movements as a part of a warm-up that she calls the brain dance. This brain dance is centered around the 8 developmental movement patterns that organize the baby's earliest central nervous system from birth. These are breath, the tactile activities that involve touch, touch of self, touch of other. Core distal, moving from the inside to the outside, moving from the outside to the inside. The head-tail connection, forward to the self, back, head and tail. The upper and lower connection, so that we have a sense of moving while planting the feet and legs, the upper portion, moving the legs. You can just imagine what I'm doing while keeping the upper body in control, with one leg standing on the other and moving back and forth. The 6th is body sides, dividing down the meridian of the center and moving the left arm and left leg, moving the right arm and the right leg together. Cross-lateral is number 7. Cross-lateral is when you move across that center line. And this is what's very necessary for reach and for writing as well. And finally, what we've talked about before, the vestibular experience, which involves spinning, moving with gravity, and can include the feeling that both you are moving within yourself, your joints and muscles. All of these 8 movements that Anne Green Gilbert identifies have to do with the senses that a child is born with. The vestibular sense that involves, as I just said, gravity and movement. The proprioceptive sense, which involves muscles and joints. And the tactile sense, which overlaps with other senses. That tactile sense is the feeling of touching and being touched, of eating, and involves taste and smell, everything that's necessary for the security of being held, the comfort of touch, that the eye contact, the vision contact with the mother that informs the mother-child bond. All of those are part of the senses that the child experiences. So when Anne Green Gilbert moves people through this brain dance, she selects ordinary movements that can be accomplished while the baby might do them on the ground or on the tummy. In a school setting or in a studio setting, you might not actually be able to be down on the floor. So she has a person experience these different warm-up movements while standing. And this really is easily applicable to almost any type of dance technique if you think about it a little bit. And the practitioners of her warm-up report feeling much more alert. Teachers say that when they incorporate this brain dance warm-up, they can more easily diagnose motor learning problems in their students, and they can understand then how and what they have to do to intervene with helpful reconditioning or conditioning exercises and dance movements for their students who, for instance, might have a difficult time with balance because they can't feel where they are in space. So, in summary, the vestibular, the proprioceptive, and the tactile senses all help an individual with balance, with posture, with muscle tone, and with eye movements. The end product of these senses, as they're experienced by the human body and mind, are increasing a sense and an understanding of the concept of body awareness, of the coordination of 2 sides of the body, of motor, that is, movement planning, of being able to gauge activity level, attention span, and emotional stability. These end products govern then in turn the quality of cognition, of behavior, and of the intellect itself. They're crucial to an individual for successful academic learning, for successful dance learning, for the activities of daily living, and for controlled behavior to take place in life, in the classroom, and wherever the person finds an ability or a place or time to move and to think. That is, everywhere in life. So I challenge you. Think about these 8 concepts, about the connections between understanding developmental movement, and see, just challenge yourself. Can you take your technique, as I earlier suggested, can you find a way to do a brief warm-up that includes a reconnection of the developmental patterns through the central nervous system in the dance technique in which you are most familiar or comfortable. Good luck and good day.